lunch break.
Welcome to lunch break, you guys. Grab your drinks, grab your food, grab your coffee, grab your energy drinks, your water, whatever you're
Justin
doing.
always goes with energy drinks. You could
throw it in there.
You could grab your piece of chicken or your salad, bagel, something healthy.
Or your energy drink.
Or your energy drink.
Or your energy drink. I throw it in there for the people like me who need that little dose.
Man, I've had my coffee for the day. How about you, Mike?
I'm not a coffee guy.
No.
I've tried to be a coffee guy. My wife loves coffee, but I just cannot get past it.
What do you?
Cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah. Do you do anything for energy? Just natural?
Oh, I could drink Diet Cokes for every hour on the hour for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Or iced tea. I like iced tea.
Yeah.
I love caffeine. I just don't like it in the flavor of coffee.
I know. I never kicked PEDs from my athletic days, so I got to have caffeine. You guys know I've always talked about this. So we're glad you're here today.
Yes.
Glad you've tuned in.
Thank you.
Share us.
Share, let some people know.
Yeah.
Let's build the audience. You guys, we have a special guest today. I'm excited.
Maggard. I'm so excited about this.
Nice to be with you, fellas.
Kern County Supervisor, you guys.
Yes.
No, he's a humble man, but I'm gonna be the bragger for him.
I am too.
It's an accomplishment in life, you guys. It's pretty cool.
It is.
This is a little town in a little county, so it's not that big a deal.
But you're doing big things.
You are
we
doing
will brag
big
for. I
things.
told you guys he's humble. We will brag for him today.
He is. Right on. So we want to jump right into our question from our audience last week.
Yes. What's the question?
Well, the question came from last week. We had Paul Linder on, and Paul basically had come out of the corrections department, and he came and kind of think it's a really neat story because he filled out like a volunteer slip. You know, we always talk to those people, fill out the volunteer slip. A lot of times people check every box.
Yeah, they'll check the puppeteers, the children's ministry, the parking lot,
Security.
the ushering. Well, what do you really want to do?
Yeah. So give us a couple. And so he was just really amazed when you called him from the children's ministry.
Yes.
And you got him, and he turned into a fabulous character. Really, seriously, a character
Literally
on stage.
a character that teaches, that preaches, that goes in, that does these roles of mad scientist, circus clowns. He ends up doing it all, and that's why I love his story, because there's so many gifted people sitting.
Everybody you out there
who
has a gift.
Yes, that God wants to use, and don't bury it. And what I've learned is some people think their gift is small or quirky, weird. And it's exactly what God had planned for you. It's exactly why he made you like that. So you're not some outcast. You have a purpose. I hope people
Did he know he had that gift before he stepped into it?
Not for children's ministry, no.
See, isn't that cool?
Yeah, that's what's cool. He had
You get
no
anointed
clue.
for the moment.
Amen.
You know, and there again, the Bible says that your gift will bring you before important people.
Yes.
It does.
Yes.
It says that. So all you guys out there, we tell everybody, find your gift. You know, I got to talk to Nicole. She used to have a class called Strength Finders. Really amazing at that. So there again, back to our question from our audience. We love the fact that you send in questions. You can do questions from this week's shows, or just ask anything about Justin and I. We're dropping some things about us each month. Justin, I want Justin to write me a poem. So I found that out about you. You're
My
write
next
me
one
a
will
poem.
be a poem. I'll write a poem about lunch break. That's what we're going to do.
Yes.
For the next, when we ask that question, the next time me and you answer, I'm going to have a poem for you.
Do you write for lyrics, like for music, or do you write just to emote things?
Just to emote is the best way to put it. I just write. It's an escape for me. I don't even like sharing. That's why writing this and sharing it here is going to be, that's a stretch. Because I write it for myself, not to be judged by people. It's not to please the world. I write because God gives me things, and it helps me get my emotion out.
I do that sometimes.
It's not for anyone.
Not
else,
like you.
I'll do it for lunch break.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Wow.
So, Mike, you write things just to kind of get them out on paper, so you don't have to say them, or
yeah. You have to put together your thoughts when you're going to speak to somebody or try to convince a crowd that this is the right decision. But I mean, sometimes, to emote, to how am I feeling about this? And when I write, I'm a lot more serious than I am in real life. Now, my job makes me serious, but I'm not.
Mike,
I'm not a serious guy at all when I'm.
You're one of the most lighthearted people I know.
But when I write, for some reason, it's deeper and it has
I'm
not dark, but a more somber tone to it.
My wife, it blows her mind because on a normal day, I'm this. This is what I am. I'm not serious at all. I don't share emotion at all. And then I'll write something. She's read some of the things I've wrote before, and she's like, "It's like you're a different person." I'm mocking it. It's just. This is the only way I can express myself.
It comes from a different spot in your heart, I think.
Does she want you to say them?
She hasn't really pushed me to say them. She is an encourager of me writing them, but she hasn't pushed me to say them really. No, I think because she knows I keep it to myself.
Well, I will tell you right now, Justin, I'm more impressed with that. The last drop that I did, an Easter egg drop I did, is I used to have a sporting line, and so but this is more creative than people might know.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So,
I will share something with you guys. I forgot about that. Yeah,
I like that. So the idea that came from the audience was, how do I take that momentum in finding a gift or a talent that maybe I don't know? And I may just jump in on this right off the bat. I think it takes guts and faith. I really do. I think you have to just get out there, because I know so many people, and I think one of our first guests, James Burton, said, if you go to a cemetery, there are a lot of unfulfilled dreams out there. And so, as James said that, it's inspired me even more to come out of the comfort zone. You might be out there, and you might have a talent that people need. I mean, your family needs or somebody else needs. So sometimes it takes that to get out there. But I was sharing with the guys earlier that when I was doing I'm dropping another Easter egg. I used to be a host on ESPN, American Muscle Magazine. There was a producer that told me that people want you to succeed when you're behind a microphone, you're on TV, or you're speaking. They want you to succeed, and that freed me up, because I was looking at the lens and I was like, who am I speaking to? And he goes, doesn't matter.
Stop. You're a host on ESPN?
Yeah, I was.
These are things I will never be able to talk. I will never be able to talk on his story.
You didn't know that?
There'll never be a chance. I did not know that.
I did a season of American Muscle Magazine.
Seth, hunt that down.
No,
hunt that down. We need to find
somebody was asking me, they wanted to pay for some of them, and I just set them free. So the idea is, how do you explore this? I think you first step out of your comfort zone and you start doing it. You find a way to be an outlet. I love the fact that Mike Maggard writes them down before he says them. I love the fact that you let a kind of an inner persona come out in your writing. So you might need to step out. You may need to ask other people. And sometimes that's the key. I tell people, if you get involved with other people, they're going to start telling you where you're gifted. That's why I think in small groups are really important, because they make you feel comfortable in that. You mind if I drop this right now?
Go ahead.
So I always talk about this. This has been my book for these shows. It's Tribal Influence, written by our own pastor, Pastor Ron Vietti. And so the chapter 5, that's where I am this week, says tribal association can begin as early as grammar school, when we first begin to believe that school is more fun if we belong to a group. Because when you belong to a group, you'll start to find you have some hidden talents or gifts. But then you just can't suppress them. You need to experience them. In church, that's one of the easiest ways. I said, start doing something. Just go in the parking lot, just start waving. And pretty soon, you find yourself in places you didn't realize you were.
Yes, stepping out in faith. I was talking to Mike even before we started today. I speak to the junior hires. I'm starting young adults now, and then I get to speak a few times on our
You did a great job
stage,
last night.
Right?
You need to go out and check out Justin's sermon from last night.
Praise the Lord. That's cool. And I was telling Mike how I'm still nervous every time. It is God who shows up. So it's that stepping out in faith. I knew that I was excited about God's word. I'm excited about what God does in my life and other people's lives, and it's supposed to be shared. Therefore, even though I'm terrified, even to the point of puking at times, I step out there and do it.
But God meets you behind the pulpit, doesn't he?
He does. Oh my gosh, so much.
God meets you when you take the step of faith.
Mike, if our audience hasn't listened to one of your sermons, they need to go to our archives and do.
Well, they're way back there.
I love it when you speak.
Becoming comfortable enough to embrace fear that's fundamental, I think, to being successful in things. And they didn't cross the Jordan River without a great deal of fear before they did. King David didn't seek God's help. Should I go fight that guy or not? Because he was afraid he might lose. But then embracing, there's that moment of anxiety. I'm going to go.
Yes.
And once you take the step, then it's way more fun.
It's almost momentum. But Mike, isn't it said that fear is not real? Fear is something you work up in your mind. Danger is real. And sometimes the things that we fear, like being rejected or not being accepted, those things aren't real. Danger is real, but fear is not real. What was that movie with Will Smith? He was in. It was him and his son. It was called something Earth.
Oh, the other one. I was thinking Pursuit of Happiness, but
I'm not recommending that if I could say that. It just he has a famous line on that. He's telling his son that fear is
I forget what the name of
things
the movie
don't usually happen that you're afraid of, but danger is real. So you have to know the difference between fear and danger.
That's profound.
Yeah. So Mike, what advice would you give to our audience of saying that how do we find that gift or that next or something new?
I think you have to find what you have a passion for, and then you need to test it a while to see if you're any good at it.
Yeah.
You might have a passion for, I don't know, space, but you're never going to be an astronaut. But maybe you have a passion for something else, and does that abide with you? Does it stay with you for a period of time? And as you practice it and try it, is it resulting in the results that are useful to you
you're
or to
looking
the Lord?
for?
So you just have to experiment, and that's where, again, overcoming that fear is part of the. Actually, if you learn to embrace it, it makes it fun. It's a fun experience.
Yes.
When you get done giving a sermon to 1,000 people in our church, you are wired and you're pumped full of
It's better than any drug I've done in my past. It's better than anything that you could do. When I got off stage last night, I was praying for everybody because there was so much faith that was within me because of that. So it's so worth it, even though it's nerve wracking and you gotta study hard to make sure you're delivering correctly. But after you are dead right, it's so exhilarating.
The first time I ever hosted a radio show by myself was a 3-hour show.
What?
And the guy looked at me and he does this countdown like this, and then he points to you, and you're going to talk for 3 hours. I remember as he was counting down, I looked down at my shirt, and I could see my shirt pumping back and forth. I was so afraid that I'd run out of things to say.
What show was that, Mike?
Oh, it was the first time. I think it was Gene Tackett a long time ago had a talk show, and
awesome.
And I've done a number of radio things over the years, but you come to embrace it.
You do.
And then also I feel it a little bit now. It makes your voice turns on. Your intonation of your words is different. You're just pumped when you're doing it.
Yeah.
So it's like like in sports. Once the
Mike was quite the athlete in high school.
Yes.
Well,
so I hear.
I was just a high school jock. That I wasn't that. I was nothing special.
So Mike, I've got my friend Mike Bull who will watch this. So I was telling him that you have a story that when you played football.
You told Mike Bull that story.
I didn't. I said you would have a story that you would.
Mike Bull, he would never remember who Mike Maggard is. He was a senior. I was a sophomore.
Mike is actually, he was inducted in the California Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Okay.
He was a national champion at Cal State in wrestling.
He was a Greek god in high school.
Got you.
At least that's how Ned Perminer portrayed him to me, as I was supposed to block Mike Bull on a Friday night. You want me to tell that story?
Yeah.
So Mike Bull is, he is this Greco-Roman.
He is.
I've banged around with him on a football field, but I don't know him. I've never shook his hand. I've never spoken to him. But he's, he was a man, and I was a 15-year-old sophomore in high school. And we could not run our offense at Foothill. We swept around the end a lot. And the number one job of the tight end is to block the defensive end so you can get around the corner. Well, I was supposed to block Mike Bull. Mike Bull is he's a 195-pound Greek god, and I'm 100.
He's a man.
Yeah, and I'm a kid. But I'm determined. I'm going to get Mike Bull if I can. So the first time they call a play to run a 28 sweep around the corner when I'm the right tight end, I fire off on Mike Bull to try to block him, and I'm just blindly jumping in there doing anything I can. And I'm sorry, Mike, that you would never remember this, but I remember it. I fired off on him, and somehow my helmet got stuck between his legs, and my shoulder pads got up against his thighs. And he could not get off of me, and I could not get off of him. And
you were like a car.
Yeah. We were like our bumpers were hooked, and it worked with the 28 sweep work.
Got him.
Now the rest of the night, I'm sure Mike Bull had his way with me every single play thereafter, but not on that play, baby. So I'm sorry, Mike, if you are you never know who Mike Maggard is, but I will never forget who Mike Bull is.
That's awesome because Mike's a very good friend of mine.
Before I go in with the question I usually ask, we do have a fun request that I do want to bring out. Doug Bennett, so you already know it's going to be fun.
When did Doug Bennett? I saw Doug this morning.
Yeah, he jumped on and said, "How about Mike write a poem too?" So maybe next time you're on, come
There's
with
a
little
challenge
something.
here.
You
Doug,
got a little Good
Doug,
job,
I
Doug.
enjoyed seeing you this morning. Looked as handsome as ever. So, yeah, right on. So
Handsome?
Yeah, Doug.
We're talking about Doug Bennett.
Doug Bennett.
Sorry, Doug. I'm just teasing you.
Oh, this is getting
That
real
is
now.
so
This is Doug Bennett with
know.
his beard going. He grows a lot better beard than I have.
We're having a conversation.
So hi, Doug.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get into interviewing your story, and I like to ask our guests, what is something that, other than writing, you actually already gave us a small one. What is something that people may not know about you? Something quirky, something you deal with in life, something that most people don't know about Mike Maggard.
So I happen to have the only birth defect that it's 100% okay to tease somebody about, and that is I'm colorblind. So
Colorblind.
every day of my life, I have to contend with I can't tell what color things are, and I make it a joke. You know, you're self-conscious about it at first, and you know, my when I was a young guy beginning to wear a suit and tie to work. My wife came home from work one day. She was working in a hospital then, and she came home and said, "Well, what'd you wear to work today?" And I said, "Oh, I wore my burgundy jacket and my burgundy slacks and my burgundy tie." You don't have a burgundy jacket, burgundy slacks, and burgundy tie. What did you wear? And I showed her. All of them were different colors. It was brown and red and whatever. So there's a lot of. I did not know, for example, my first car I ever bought in high school was a 71 Nova Super Sport, a cool little muscle car. I thought it was gold with a white Landau top. It wasn't even gold. My girlfriend told me, who now is my wife, Mary, that car's not gold. That car's green. It's like, it was lime green, and I didn't know the difference.
Well, let me just tell you, Mike, you have a beautiful pink suit on today.
Why, thank you very much. You know what garanimals are?
No.
I know that this is the T-Rex top that goes to the T-Rex pants. I know that
That's funny.
I don't really put T-Rexes in it. But
think
you recognize, you memorize the patterns, so you don't
Yes.
have that happen to you.
Got you.
Mike one time told me, and I do remember this. You told me that there's this level of greens, but Mike, remember when we went to Mulahey?
Yes.
And I bought a Angels jersey for Diego, and you asked me what color it was, and that's the first time I think I knew that you were. And you said, "Tom, the only thing I don't want to do is tell me to cut the red wire." If we get in that circumstance,
Yeah.
you cut the red wire.
Yeah, I would not be good at being a bomb tech or a pilot, apparently.
I love that story. I love that story. So, Mike, we found out a little bit about your high school. Share a little bit about. I mean, a lot of our audience knows that you're a Kern County supervisor. Some may not know that you were a Bakersfield city councilman at one point. But you've always been influential. But what put you on that road? I know you married your high school sweetheart. So, it just kind of fills some gaps.
I've liked politics since I was a kid. The very first memory, I'm old now, older. So the very first memory I had watching TV was the Kennedy-Nixon debate. And we didn't have a TV, but we went to my aunt's house, and they had a TV. And I remember watching these two men debating, and I knew who John Kennedy was. And I carried that with me for a long time. And the reason it was interesting to me is it's one way to affect change. You can change the result if you are in the midst of when that's being decided. So that always intrigued me. In business, I'm a CPA by trade, and I started my practice when I was 23 years old. And by the time I was about 30, I'd hit my stride, and I was starting to make money, and I had enough success that thanks to God that I did, that I had free time. So it occurred to me, I think I'd like to see if I could affect my hometown. I live here. I'm always going to live here. What could I do to make it better? And I thought about running for mayor when I was 29 or 30 years old. Well, it ended up that I didn't run for mayor. Somebody else ran for mayor. But I ran for the school board. And I ran for the school board because a teacher made my wife cry. And I didn't like that she went to advocate for our son who had, speaking impediment or something. I can't remember what it was anymore. She came home and said, and Mary is not, I could slug her and she wouldn't.
I know your wife is.
But my wife's not a crier. This teacher really got to her. And I thought to myself, well, I can do something about that. I ran for the school board and got elected. So then the school board, I did some things to change the school district. I was very pleased to be able to do that. You ask God what you should do, and like I said earlier, He gives you a passion for it. What do you know? I could change things. It was different. I never went after that teacher, by the way. I just made sure that parents had a bigger voice at school than they did. So I played around with that, and what do you know? I was effective. So I thought, well, hey, why not run for city council? Let's see if I could be effective there. And I did, and God blessed me, and I won. And then I thought, well, wow, if I could affect the city, maybe I could affect the county. At the city level, in my day, you represent about 40,000 people. As a supervisor, you represent about 160 to 180,000 people.
Big difference. So
it's a lot bigger bite. But that's what got me interested, is so I could affect change in our community, and that's been that fire stayed in me the whole time.
Awesome. I'm trying to engage our audience. There's a few things going on. For one, Chastity wanting prayer for peace. We're going to pray for you at the end. Jonelle says hi, but this is the one. Sandy Bird says, is it hard to be in politics and still stand up for your Christian beliefs? I think that's a real good question. Could you answer that for us?
I have to remind myself that when I'm in my political life, I'm standing behind a podium. I'm not standing behind a pulpit. Mm-hmm. So I talk to anybody about God anytime they want. I make it very clear that I'm a Christian. I have a set of beliefs that are consistent with that. It makes it predictable as to who I am. I make that very clear. But I don't press the gospel when I'm in a completely secular world. Now, off camera, out of the public light, I pray with people. That's a common thing. But those are two things you have to keep separate. I am by nature very aggressive, and I'm very competitive. So it has always been a challenge not to go off in public. And as I've gotten older, I learned that you can't make money if you're mean. You make money if you're nice. Yeah. So I learned how to kind of work with that and contain that. But in public, sometimes if I get provoked, there are a couple of tells. If there's this muscle in my jaw that if it's flinching, I'm annoyed. But the public should not ever be able to tell that that's the case.
Mike, I can personally say this. Remember when you used to call me sometimes? You let me pray with you and hold you accountable. Remember that? And it was back the Hillside Acres days. Remember that? And remember that one time you called me and I think I told you, Mike, sheath the sword. You remember that?
Yes.
You were wanting to swing it, and I was like, Mike.
Yes.
But there again, I don't know if people know that about you. You do let people into your life that can speak into your life too.
I've always tried to surround myself with people that can hold me accountable and say, hey,
you have.
You need to think about this.
I remember you called me and I just said, Mike, sheath that sword.
Yeah.
And you called me back and you go, I did that. So
yeah, because I want to pull it sometime.
And swing it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, you do a great job of representing Christ. I remember the first time I knew I was going to meet you. I'm expecting, in my head, I think in a lot of people's head, you have your idea of politician. You have it. And then just to see a gentle, humble man who loves the Lord in that position, I'm like,
you thought
this exists? I didn't even know that was a thing.
You thought he kissed babies and
yeah, I thought he would put on a little fake profile and then after it'd be like, I hate this and blah blah blah. And no, it's not. You guys, it's legit, and I just love being able to witness it. And I hope there's some Christians out there listening, and very much like you, when they see things wrong in our community or your community, wherever you're at, you decide to get involved and change it instead of running and letting other people run our politics, when we can get in there and do something about it if you stand strong.
Well, Mike, I know you have two great sons. I know one's serving our country. I love that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he does. There again, if you don't know Andrew and Jake, they're just amazing kids. Love your wife. Tell us about being a dad.
Oh, yeah.
Because here again, I'm a dad. I'm a girl dad. You're a boy dad. Justin's got a
little
mix.
Both. Yeah.
You got like a whole team.
I'm a basketball person. Everyone's saying I'm almost at the starting five, and we are almost there. But
you got room for one more
NBA
small forward.
And WNBA, be ready.
So what again?
I go. Everybody knows the politician. We know more about the football player. But being a dad, was that a challenge for you? There again, you have two great boys. You do. And a wonderful wife, and I know them personally. So I know my challenges through life with girls. You had two boys in your house.
I am I was made to be the father of boys. I didn't comb their hair. I couldn't have done braids. I was meant to be the father of boys. And my kids are really great people, great now men, for two reasons. God blessed us with great sons, and my wife.
Yes. You never give enough credit to the wife.
Every morning.
Tiffany, you do an amazing job.
Cassie, shout out. You just got to let it be known because can't do it without them.
Every morning as I was preparing to go to work, as the boys were at the kitchen counter having their breakfast, Mary was doing a Bible study with them and praying for their day. So they prayed every day. I mean, I bet you 95% of the days they went to school, they were at the kitchen counter doing a brief Bible study with their mom, and then she prayed for them as they went out the door. That
Mary,
affected
good
their
job, Mary.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
It is. Well,
Good
I
job.
do have a personal knowledge of somebody, and it's Emily Poole.
Oh,
And Emily was the director of the student union building when we first went out there and had a campus there. And she told me a story. She goes, "I was been to Mike Maggard's house. He had the FCA group come to his house. So you're real active in the FCA."
yes. When I was a high school kid, FCA was kind of blowing up around the country.
And that's
Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Fellowship of Christian
Yeah.
Athletes.
And Fellowship of Christian Athletes came to Bakersfield, and I don't know how it happened. Again, I was a sophomore, I think, at this point. Yeah, I'm sure I was a sophomore. I don't know how they picked Mike Maggard from Foothill to be a part of this, but Judge Jeletich,
I remember Judge Jeletich.
he put out word and talked to some coaches, and coaches put together a group of young athletes from Bakersfield to go to Los Angeles to a $100 a plate dinner, which I thought was, $3 at McDonald's was great for me.
Amen.
$100 a plate dinner, I had never even imagined of that. And it was in some big downtown restaurant. And it was the day after the Super Bowl when Roger Staubach was the MVP of the Super Bowl.
Ooh.
He was the FCA Athlete of the Year.
What a player to go and hear speak.
The best.
So I fell in love with FCA and thought it was fabulous. And we came back, and the whole idea was that we would fall in love with it and come back, and we'd start huddle groups in each of our high schools. So we started a huddle group at Foothill when I was a sophomore, and that persisted for several years after I was gone. But then FCA kind of waned in town, and it happened when my son Jake, my older boy, who was a very, very good athlete in high school, and he, when he was there, and I was meeting other athletes around the school campus. By the time he was a sophomore, I knew who the seniors were on the football team and stuff like that. So bottom line is, I began to figure out who are the Christian kids and who are not the Christian kids, and we started a huddle group at Foothill. I'm sorry, at Highland. At Highland, my kids went to Highland, and so we had FCA at my house every Monday night that school was in.
You brought something that affected your life back
Yes.
into your children's
Yes.
lives.
Now God
That's
was
important.
God was doing something, because he also did that at Centennial High School. I don't know that. I can't remember that guy's name anymore. But there was a coach there that was involved. So it sprung up simultaneously around town, and our group took off. So an average night was 70 kids at our house.
In your house.
In my house, in my little 2,100 square foot house.
Did you provide snacks and food?
We had 3 dozen donuts, like 8
Smart.
2 liters of soda pop. My wife would make spaghetti, bags and bags of chips. And parents loved that their kids were coming to something wholesome, so they would dump all this stuff.
Yeah.
But I had a standing order for 3,000 donuts, which included maple bars, my personal favorite, every Monday night that school was in for years and years at our house. So the whole neighborhood filled up with cars.
I love that.
And it wasn't just
That's
these
a
goody,
youth
a big youth group.
It's a
Yeah.
huge
It
full-on
is
ministry.
affecting people's lives because
That's
you
a-
affected Emily's
Yes.
as an adult.
Yeah.
And she told me that. She goes, "That was profound."
Her sister was part of that group that were seniors I think I probably met her sister when she was a junior or a senior. There were more kids getting saved at my house than were getting saved at my church that I went to back then.
that
So
sounds like
it was, we didn't invite the Christian kids. We invited every kid there was. So they were partying hardy. A lot of them were just living, the wildest life you could imagine.
High school dream.
That's right. But they came to my house on Monday nights and they heard the gospel.
Sounds like what Jesus would have done. That's honestly.
Well, see, and if you're in the audience right now, a lot of times I tell parents, get involved in what your kids do.
Yeah.
And you can bring, there again, you can influence their friends, you can influence the other people around them. But there again, start something in your house. We did. When my kids were in high school, the people, we had a lot of athletes. I got to figure out the boys who were coming around before it got
get to
official.
know
them.
Before it got official.
The biggest night we ever had was about 110 kids.
That's
My house was packed full of kids, and we would play a game. I have more games than you could imagine to make. And high school athletes are competitive, so every game was competitive. And we do a game. We would eat, and then we would eat, and then we'd do the game, and then we'd have a devotion. And they were into it. And I still have kids all these years later who come up, and in fact, just a couple of Sundays ago, Kenny Hedlund, a kid actually, he went to Valley. His family went to Valley for a time. Kenny Hedlund stopped by my house just to say hi. I was in your neighborhood, and I remembered that was your house, so that still happens. So it's great fun.
Mike, and I think Justin can say that into our audience, if you get involved in children's lives, they don't forget it. I'm blessed that there's been a pastor in my future son-in-law's life. His name's Danny Jimenez, but Danny's pastor is named Billy Frills. Now, Billy used to play football for me at Valley High School, so I used to be able to drive Billy to home and to sometimes. So you got to get involved with kids' lives because they'll be impactful one day. Never did I think that Billy would be my future son-in-law's pastor. That makes my head go. It does.
You never know what he's doing.
But you can impact children's lives who become adults. Yeah. What did Pastor Ron say? That may be the one that's doing surgery or doing a filling on you one day.
You really don't know, man. Seeing some of these, I've seen some second graders now, like coming up, and I've seen kids that I coached graduating, getting married, and it's just crazy to see them become adults and getting in all these positions.
Yes.
And you see all the seeds that God has planted, and we're all connected in some way, and it's a blessing of the ministry. It's a blessing of pouring into the youth. It's important for everyone. It's not just youth ministers.
I was blessed to play for a legendary coach around town named Ned Perminer.
Yes, very legendary.
And a bunch of us are still friends with him. And he said this in a big group one time. He said, my doctor used to play for me. My dentist used to play for me. My CPA used to play for me. All these different people, the principal of my school used to play for me. Had I known all you guys were going to play for me, you'd have got a lot more playing time.
Exactly.
I love that. You never know who you're influencing.
Yeah.
You never do. Get involved in your church or your school or just any event.
Oh, and it blesses you years and years and years later.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. You have to get out and get involved. I like that. So, Mike, I know you were talking to us about purpose, and you see a purpose right now in you being a county supervisor during the pandemic in the season we're in. Can you explain that?
I've run for a fourth term on the Board of Supervisors, and most people do it for 2 terms. Some people do it for 3. Very few people do it for 4. And after I won, praise God, I won, and that's another story for another time. What that was like. After it was over and I won, I kind of thought, why did I do this? What was the purpose for this? And my wife asked me that question sometimes. Tell me why, again, you want to do that? What's the reason for that?
Well, it's not an easy task.
Well, nowadays it's so combative, and there's wacko people that, I got to change my route to work, and I got to make sure there's nobody outside my garage in the morning when I leave. There's crazy people in the world out there. So it is different than it used to be. But bottom line is, I know now why I ran again. And if you look at Esther chapter 4, verse 14, it says, for such a time as this, Esther was used to save her people because she was in the right place at the right time to do what God called her to do.
Her uncle,
Mordecai,
asked, she said, I'm here for this purpose.
Yes. So, so bottom line is, none of us had any idea that COVID would hit. But as it gathered momentum, it was very apparent that we had a tornado by the tail, and we were going to watch and see how it affected our culture. So God gave me several epiphanies. He just gave me a sense that you need to do this, that, and the other thing as this started to develop. And the first thing was we needed to create this task force to deal with COVID. And so on that task force is one of my colleagues on the Board of Supervisors, Zach Scribner, a brilliant, talented, great guy that I'm able to serve with. And then the CAO for the county's Chief Administrative Officer is a guy named Ryan Alsop. The head of the Public Health Department, he's now retired, but a guy named Matt Constantine.
I like that.
And the successor to Matt is a lady named Bryn Kerrigan. So the five of us became this group
brain trust,
and we had to deal with everything as it was coming up. And the challenge was, how do we save our people from dying versus how do we keep our economy alive and not kill all the tens of thousands of jobs in our community. And through this, it wasn't just me, but believe me, it's a team of people. And the rest of my colleagues on the board have said yes every single time. They've taken a leap of faith with us. So it really has revealed that we are all pulling together. Same thing happened with hospitals. Hospitals are very competitive. They advertise and kind of snipe about each other. Not now. They're on the same page. How do we take care of our community?
Yeah.
That really behind the scenes, that's what's going on. It's brought people together from every place you can imagine, because this is the biggest challenge that we face during our time. So it's given us several ideas. For example, how do we had all across the country, people were dying in skilled nursing facilities. They call those SNFs. They were started to die here. The ideas were given. We came up with these ideas about what we could do differently than other communities. We did it. We've saved dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of lives in our skilled nursing facilities because we tried things here that nobody else had tried. Other communities are not doing what we did with that. So skilled nursing facilities. We were one of the leading people in the state to convince the governor that you shouldn't measure us on how many cases are in your community. You should measure our ability to stay open for business purposes based on how well we can manage our hospital capacity.
That's brilliant.
That to this day is the main measurement of how you keep the economy going. How could we keep businesses open, and how do we keep people from dying?
Because you can't make everybody happy.
No. In fact, in 1 week, I got a phone call from one person that says, I don't know how you sleep at nighttime because you're being so reckless letting these businesses being open. People are going to die. I don't know how you sleep. A couple days later, I get another phone call. I don't know how you sleep at nighttime because you have so many rules in place. Our economy is going to die and nobody's going to have a job.
Both sides came at you.
That's how it is all the time.
Yeah.
So
the answer is I don't sleep at night because you guys.
Well, sometimes. That's why I ride a bike.
Exactly.
Mike's an amazing bike rider too.
Well, no, I'm just a plug.
But you're consistent, Mike.
I hold on to the back of the guy in front of me, and he can pull me up those hills.
That does bring me to the question I did want to ask you, Mike.
Did you want to finish that thought though?
Oh, were you not done? I'm sorry.
Well, all I was say I could go on and on about it because I'm excited about it. But
no, you are.
Make sure you finish.
God has anointed a few people here to be to have the right thoughts at the right time for such a time as this. We will weather this storm. And that's if there was a reason why I ran a fourth time, that's the reason.
You know, Mike, that even brings me into a thought for our audience and us. You know, one of the things I shared a couple weeks ago on Wednesday night was the fact that God's always speaking.
Amen.
You had a question, and all of a sudden God revealed it. But sometimes He doesn't reveal it until you're in the battle. You know, I always go back to Moses when he says, "You're going to realize I was in this journey in Egypt when you're standing on Mount Sinai." So you got to get through it. So I think about that. Even you ask God why, and you said, "Man, this is why I'm here." And you've seen all the results, and now you're seeing, the county or the city come out of this too.
Yeah, it's even a leap of faith running again as well. You didn't know where it was going to take you, but now we see, and thank God you were in office during this time.
Yes.
Well, and I'm not taking any credit for it myself.
I know you're not. It's the team.
You were part of it.
I named all those people. They are. It was the perfect mix at the perfect time to handle all those questions, and there were no answers for them. Yeah. So I don't know how God gave us the insight, to do it, but that's how I see it.
That's how
I love that, and that's why I'm a team guy.
Yeah,
I never do it again. But you and I always partner up with stuff.
That's what I've learned, the team thing from Pastor Tom. It has helped me a lot in life. But there is that one question I wanted to get to you because It's just something
Mike's got to do
want
his
know.
civic duty because Mike's on jury duty this week, and we got to get him.
In fact,
back
that's why I'm wearing a suit.
Well, let's go into that. This whole week was a whirlwind because we didn't know that he has jury duty, and you know how it goes nowadays. You have to call each night and see if you have it.
And Mike kept calling me. Goes,
isn't it crazy that you have the supervisor here dealing with the same struggle we have?
Oh, I got to do the same thing everybody else does.
Yeah, I love that, Mike.
Only when I go sit in the box, the judge picks me out of the crowd.
Oh,
hey,
man.
Mr. Maggard, they ask me all these questions. I got to answer all the questions. But they'll never keep me. They never keep me. I'll get booted as soon as.
But you are right. We do need to let you go. You do need to get to.
Anything else, Mike, that you would have that you want to share with the audience?
Well, you were going to ask me a question, weren't you?
The question is this. Hopefully you can answer it. If not, we can answer it next week. It's just I know you deal with a lot of negativity. You said the phone
That's
calls.
something a lot of
things,
people deal with.
And I know I even deal with when I hear one negative thing about me. Everyone can say my sermon was amazing. I hear one person say that was dumb, and I'm like,
yeah, that's all you focus on.
And it gets to me. How do you deal with that way more than
this
anyone
day,
else?
I can tell you, it was in the I believe it was in the September issue of Muscle and Fitness in 1980.
It's burned in his memory.
It is. I had a good.
time.
I didn't have a good show in the Mr. America in 1985, and I had a good friend that won it, Phil Williams. We've talked about
got
this.
this down.
And he started criticizing me. I was like, obviously you won. You were better than me. But it was. I remember that. Like to this day,
the
you
negative
remember that
comments
stuff.
stick. So how are you able to look past that and keep moving forward towards your purpose? And we can close on that.
Well, the cost, you have to weigh the cost against the benefit. And the benefit to solve a problem that is going to terribly affect someone else is a big enough benefit. You got to absorb the cost of it.
Gotcha.
When there are, particularly in social media, this is interesting. If I was a 13-year-old little girl and people said about me what people have said about me on Facebook, for example, yeah, you could be suicidal. You would think the whole world hates you. You are fat, dumb, ignorant. You are completely without value, and the whole world knows it. That's the lie of social media.
Yes.
I'm a full adult man. God has blessed me with a life I never dreamt was possible. And people say these outrageous things about me, and I read them, and at first I thought, oh my goodness, I'm out of here. I don't need to deal with this. Well, I'd rather lose than turn tail and run, because I'm going to reveal my aggressive side. Some mealy-mouthed punk is saying something about me.
The muscle's going off.
Yeah, the muscle's going off. I'd rather lose than make them turn tail and run. So that just makes me bow up. I'm ready to take that on. And yeah, it's ugly, and it's the season in life that we're in. But as you get some perspective on it, it's a handful of people surrounded by a bunch of people that are, for some reason, following that person,
like drama.
Yeah, and it's just a little group of people that gossip back and forth, and you're the topic of the day. So whatever.
You know what I do? I do a little nursery rhyme. Sticks and stones may hurt my bones, but words will never hurt me. I repeat it to myself. I do. I remember that when I was in grammar school.
I don't think of that. I think of other things I'd like to do, but I'm not gonna.
I used to do that until I became a Christian. I don't.
Yes.
I used to punch before I said things.
Same here.
I didn't wear a suit for a living. I grew up in East Bakersfield at Foothill High School and the feeder schools to it in neighborhoods that were tough neighborhoods. And hey, I'm no Wally World Beater. Like I told you, Mike Bull could have killed me, but I'm gonna if we're gonna go at it, you're gonna get dinged. That's my nature. So, but God has shown me how to balance that, because frankly, another way to deal with it is once they've succumbed to making it that personal, you own them. You are in their head. They think of you constantly. They cannot get past you. They can't figure it out. So they revert to the most juvenile, silly names they call you, and you own them, and you will carry the day at the other side. So I just wish we could tell that to an 11-year-old kid who is terrified that some bully is after them. But if it affected me as a full-grown man, I have empathy for those kids who feel that.
Well, I know there could be some youngster out there watching who's dealing with it, and to know some of the hateful things that have been said about you, and you still push forward, and you still are elected by the people, and things like that. So you can overcome it. You can overcome it, and Hopefully, everyone out there doesn't let words keep them down.
And those people that come after me have no idea that I have a prayer team. In one of my campaigns, Tom was the main guy in that, in one of those prayer groups. They don't know that people are praying for me to completely undo their plans.
Yeah.
Their plans will turn on them. They will suffer the consequences of what they wished on me. We don't need to talk about this here, but that has really become evident.
Yeah. God is fighting for you.
Mike, I've seen that happen for you. Well, Mike, I want to thank you so much for coming out. Great episode. So next week we have Vince Roach. You know Vince, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, Vince will be on our show. He's the president of Kirschman Wakefield here in town.
Yeah.
Godly man, has 7 children, 6 original.
He has 7 kids?
He does.
Someone with more than me. I love
yes.
it. I get to laugh at him.
You're still a young man.
I love Vince, personal friend of mine, got a great family. I look forward to seeing Vince next week. But other than that, you guys have a great week out there. Mike Maggard and Mary are going to be doing a session at the marriage retreat this weekend. J2 and Cassie are, Tiffany and I are.
Yeah.
Your session is on Saturday, Mike, yours and
Yes.
Mary's. You always guys do a great job. So if you're out there and you haven't signed up for our marriage retreat, do it. Come on out. See it Sunday.
Northwest Campus opening too.
Northwest Campus here is going to be our grand opening. So we got a taco truck. So
oh yeah.
So come on out.
Thanks for watching. This
Thank
was
you,
Lunch
guys.
Break.
It's good to be with you guys.